Great to have with us at halftime Jonathan Vines, who wears a lot of different caps there at Bayside Academy. Jonathan, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Robert. Thank you for having me.
Hey, great having you. Basketball, tennis, English. Man, there are all kinds of things that you are in charge of. I guess we're approaching the basketball season, though, correct? Tennis will be later. So, basketball season coming up. So, let's talk about that first. Great year last year. What are you looking for this year?
Yeah, just to revisit last year for a second. We had six seniors last year. Most of those guys had been at Bayside pretty much the whole way. So it was just incredibly gratifying to see those guys return to the playoffs. It had been a while since Bayside boys basketball had been in the state playoffs. So, to get to 17 wins and get to the first round of the playoffs, I just couldn't be more proud of those guys and those seniors and what they accomplished here last year.
Well, and speaking of that, I mean, is this a complete reload type situation for the upcoming year with six guys leaving, or are there a lot of guys who got a lot of playing time a year ago ready to fill those spots?
It's interesting moving into my third year here. When you lose someone like a Graham Uter, who's the backup center on SMU's football team right now, 6'5", 6'6", 275 pounds as a high school, power forward. When you lose, a physical presence like that, you assume that maybe it's a rebuilding year and that there's going to be a learning curve. But I've been so encouraged at the cerebral nature of our players here at Bayside Academy. We have some really smart kids here, and the way that they've been able to pick up, our system of play. Our version of some Princeton offense. It's truly remarkable what these kids have done and what they're able to learn and process and carry forward from year to year. So, the things that took, an entire practice to teach and to learn 2 years ago, we're reviewing those things in 10 minutes now. So we're able to go so much further into offense and defense. So even when you lose, tremendous players like Graham Uter and Finn Niebrig and Wills Norton, so on and so forth, you just reload, right? And it's program building. So that it's been really exciting to see that here.
Obviously, the players are adapting to and learning your plan for basketball, but do you make adaptations as a coach? I mean, when you've got particular talent coming in, do you find yourself also changing the way maybe you coach or approaching the game a little differently based on that talent?
I think, at least for me, you have certain standards that are ongoing, right? That you're going to adhere to year after year after year. So, for me, we always want to be highly skilled. Okay. We want to be able to shoot the ball with great efficiency. We want to be smart, as in we want to have great basketball IQ. So I focus on a lot of situational play. Okay. In practice, we give them a lot of scenarios. We want to make sure we know exactly what we're doing in any given situation, no matter how obscure. Maybe it's something that you don't see, you might see every 2 or 3 years in a game, but we want to make sure we have some idea of what we're doing in that odd circumstance. But I think you have to, year to year, depending on the talent that you have and the skill set of those players, I think you have to morph and modify to some degree. This year, case in point, we have Miles Uter returning. as sort of a shooting power forward, sort of a point forward. He can shoot the three. He can play inside. And then we also have Monroe Parton. And obviously, Miles and Monroe really well from football.
Mm-hmm.
Both those guys are having tremendous years on the gridiron for Bayside. But, Monroe Parton had a broken hand last year, so we didn't have him. So that's another, he's 6'5". Miles is 6'5". Playing 3A basketball, you have to find ways to utilize, that length and that skill set. Even if, my background, even in college, my background was playing 4, sometimes 5 guards, and we're going to try to score 100 points. And when you have, those physical frames, you have to figure out ways to make the most of those guys.
In 2024-25, what is an acceptable year for Jonathan Vines?
I think for us, and not just my program, I think holistically at Bayside Academy, we're trying to grow young men and young women who are ready to go out into the community and be leaders and be lights and be tremendous fathers and tremendous mothers and tremendous examples, to be kind. And I know some of this sounds cliche, but this really is about so much more than, building a basketball program or building a soccer program. We're trying to build people. Okay. And, talent is always going to be cyclical, but, I think if we can set the precedent that we're going to be competitors, right? No matter, what the win-loss record is, no matter, 3A, 4A, 5A, whatever it is, we're trying to grow elite competitors in our basketball program, because I feel like that's a translatable skill, right? For most of these athletes, organized sports are over after high school. But I feel like, learning to be a competitor, that translates to the workforce. It translates to college. It translates to for the way that you compete and you fight for your family. So those are the things that we try to highlight here.
Is there competition between coaches, by the way? I mean, maybe not outward competition, but I mean, you got all kinds of coaches with state championships there at Bayside. So is there that kind of competitive drive inwardly going, I got to have one of those too?
Am I jealous that Ann Schilling has 28 state titles? The answer is yes, Robert. The answer is yes. No, I think especially at Bayside, because it is such a unique place. Athletically, it's been such a unique place, right? I mean, things have been done here that have never been done before in certain sports. So, if you look at volleyball, if you look at soccer, and a lot of it's coaching, a lot of it's the kids, a lot of it is this community, for whatever reason, we have been excellent. We have been just nothing short of great, elite, in volleyball and soccer and what have you. So I don't think it's healthy for, a sport like boys basketball, where we've had, I think, we were 14-14 my first year. We were 17-9 last year. I think we'd had 1 or 2 winning seasons in the last 12 years before that. So I think you have to look at it program to program in terms of building a championship culture and providing an atmosphere for these athletes to compete for championships. I think that's my mantra anyway. I mean, you can provide an atmosphere where we can compete for championships every single year, whether that's 10 wins, 15 wins, 20 wins.
I did not realize until I went to the website that you were also the girls' varsity tennis coach. When did that come to be?
I've done that since I've been here. So this will be my 3rd season with varsity girls tennis. I've always loved tennis. I've always played tennis. I played high school tennis. So it's something that I'm passionate about, and it's been a lot of fun to be involved with that program. I think I've brought some different elements to that in terms of strength and conditioning and getting in the weight room and some things that were maybe unfamiliar in that program before I got here. But that's been a ton of fun as well.
And where that is concerned, what's the year look like? Does it start in, I know collegiately it starts like after the first of the year. Is that true for high school as well?
Yeah, they pushed it a couple weeks later this year. So it really kind of as basketball is winding down, we're starting up tennis. So we've I think 3 years ago our girls tennis won the state title in 3A. We were in 4A the past 2 years. We made the state tournament each of those years. And sort of like boys basketball, we graduated 6 seniors last May. So, some question marks there, but gosh, tons of opportunity for the JV group that's coming up.
And you are also an English instructor. Am I correct?
This is correct.
All right. I've got to ask, I got to put you on the spot. If you had to give up, if you could only do one of the three,
Okay.
which of the three would it be?
Oh gosh. The way I approach the classroom is not unlike the way I coach my teams. When we're studying Shakespeare, when we're studying Macbeth, when we're looking at Heart of Darkness, when we're looking at all these great works of literature, we're breaking them down and we're finding life lessons, which is really not dissimilar to what we're doing in basketball or tennis. So I've always thought of myself as a teacher first and foremost. You can count the number of times that I raise my voice in a given season on one hand. So I love teaching, whether that's basketball, English, tennis. I mean, obviously basketball is my first love. Playing and coaching at the collegiate level for 16 years. So, if I just had to give you an answer, I would coach basketball anywhere at any level for the rest of my life.
Jonathan Vines, always great talking with you. Thanks so much for being our halftime guest, and we're going to do this again next year too.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everything that you provide for our community and our fan base. It really does enhance the student athlete experience. So we can't thank you enough for the work that you do around here.
Man, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you, sir.